top their interest and debt service payment at $2.5 million in your budget proposal, which is what's basically proposed, that would deal with the teeter plan, which is one of the issues that in this proposed budget is not dealt with. So that would deal with the teeter plan, and I think it would, it's not going to cost the county any more money, but it would make it a lot easier in this budget proposal if we just dealt with that teeter plan issue and combining it with our two existing COPs. I think that would, I'd like to see that option entertained here probably this morning, because this is a proposed budget, and it's a budget strategy. But I think with the favorable market conditions that we can do that, and if in the next 2 or 3 months, at least the CEO's office can come back with a financing plan to refinance those 3 issues. And it would make it a lot, we're not borrowing more money, we're just realizing that the teeter plan is a debt and combine it with our 2 existing debts, and for try to get a favorable interest rate and keep our same payment history of the $2.5 million a year interest and principal payment.
Mr. Mitchell.
Actually, I very much agree with Supervisor Pinch's comments on his overall goals. I did have a meeting several months ago with one of our bond counsels, and I'll ask staff and the auditor to clarify it, but as I remember the discussion, there really were 2 issues where we got hung up. One was in the COPs, there are some prepayment penalty clauses in there, and you only have certain opportunities to refinance those COPs without penalties. I also, as we went through and looked at what the opportunities are, when you it wasn't so much the interest rates were not a concern, but the issuance cost and the cost of the bond counsel and so forth is what made it not to be cost effective. So maybe either Allison or Meredith could add some clarification to those comments.
Well, we probably can all provide a little bit of clarification, so I'll kind of start off and let them supplement. We did look at the issue of essentially refinancing the teeter debt. One, I want to be really clear. We recognize that it's a debt. It's not a pretend debt or whatever. It's a debt. The other is that the total debt is over $9 million. And the payment that we have traditionally been attempting to do over the last several years of $2.5 million does not gain us ground. It is insufficient to both address the debt as well as the interest payments that we're paying on that debt as we go forward. And we are right now entering into a period where the debt will kind of grow faster because of where we are with forfeitures, et cetera. Now that will be followed by additional revenues as the penalties are paid off and or as property is sold to pay the those debts. But in the program overall, we're going to go into a trough to come out of it probably in several years. So one thing to realize is the total is around $9 million. When we investigated it before, as Tom said, refinancing it with the interest rates and then the other costs of doing that refinancing, it was not more cost effective to package it all together than to continue to pay it off through the county's own system. So that's my contribution to it, and I'll let Meredith add to that.
Supervisor Koufax, before we go to Mary.
Yeah, I hate to interrupt this narrative, but since one of the objectives of these sessions is to increase clarity and transparency, it'd be nice when we come up with these acronyms. I suspect if we had a test right now, the cops would not be, everybody would, not everybody, a number of people in the audience, including maybe a couple of supervisors, would fail that test. So can we have these terms, these acronyms through these proceedings be preceded by at least a one-sentence statement as to what they are, And I know the teeter plan, there's no such possibility, so we'll take that
That's not an acronym. It's
off. That's right,
It's
it's
a
not an
memorial.
acronym, it's just a name, a word, a
Yeah.
name.
Statement
Okay,
of fact.
but I won't raise that point again if you'll be,
will try to
make
do
a really
better.
strong effort to go in that
So,
direction.
and I think in
Thank
this
you,
case,
Supervisor.
it's not actually pronounced COPS, it's COPs.
I know,
Which
I
means
know.
certificates of participation, and it's used for financing facilities, and so I will let Meredith speak to that.
I've completely lost my train of thought.
Thanks, David.
The COPs, the certificates of participation that were issued back in 2000 and 2001, as Tom alluded to, they do have prepayment penalties in them. And the interest rates at that time were very favorable to the county, and I don't think that we can duplicate that at this point. And as Allison said, I don't believe that we can actually issue debt as a COP for the teeter debt. I don't believe that's an option to us.
Jennifer Wyatt, Deputy CEO. Good morning. The only thing that I could add to that is last year in the budget, we did bring forward some information from one of the outside brokers who was looking into the refinancing and refunding of the COPs. And if you recall, last year, the interest rates were so phenomenally low that when we did the first packaging of the COPs, that there's no way that we could refinance that package together, as Meredith said, and as Tom said, there's only a partial refunding available anyway for the COPs. The cost to refund would cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars just to refund them if we could do just the partial of the COPs. Therefore, in the long run, and the interest rate that we would have to pay on them would not make any sense fiscally, because the interest rate that we have with our own county treasury paying back the teeter plan is lower than what they could offer.
So in summary, you asked us to look at this last year. We did. We can certainly look at it again in a new year, but we don't expect different results at this time.
Supervisor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But what we're not showing is the cost that it cost our operating capital in this county to continue the teeter plan the way we're doing it. It's probably costing us $2 million a year in operating expenses to fund this teeter plan the way it's doing. So when you compare it to that, what you're losing on the long-term debt, I'd like to see that comparison. Because it is probably costing us around $2 million a year in our operating budget through the annual budget process to deal the way we've been dealing with the teeter plan. Where if we set it aside, even if we set it aside as a separate loan, which is what it is, it's a debt, and maybe even finance it through the county treasury. But the way we do it, it's costing about $2 million a year in operating funds available through our budget process, and that's the point I'm trying to make. We're a service organization, so that's a lot of money in services that we're not able to provide out there because the way we're doing this. And I understand how it's probably not beneficial when you look at strictly as an accountant to go out and refinance